welcome to another episode of the IDS podcast. And I'm here today with my guest, Joe Calise from Sight and Sounds. What's going on, Joe?
How are you?
Good. And, you have a lot of experience with IDS besides your own business. We'll get to your business in a second, but
Sure.
Let's talk about IDS and your involvement with IDS. Well, let's take a step back even further, and let's talk about, I mentioned Sight and Sounds. Your website, if anyone wants to check it out, is hometheater.biz. Yep. We're here in your space now, which is in Seaford. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? What is your business?
So I like to say that we do everything technology related for the home. So whether it's security systems, smart homes, lighting control, anything that's smart and cool, if it's technology related, we probably do.
Cool. And people like pushing buttons. So.
Or talking, using their voices.
Oh, that's true. Nowadays, yes.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of upgrading my home to smart home. So I have my lights on Alexa and I have my thermostat on Alexa, but that's as far as I go.
So the one area where we differentiate is we're able to take all those different technologies and put them into one easy-to-use app. So this way, as a consumer, they're not having a folder on their phone and having to rumble through all different apps to say which one controls my thermostats and which one controls my lights. It's one app to control everything.
Yeah, so I went the cheap way, and I bought these really awful Wi-Fi light switches from Amazon, and I'm regretting that now.
Okay.
So maybe I'll have you
change back.
Yeah, maybe I'll have you come back and put in some more higher quality switches and dimmers. But nevertheless, you were the past president of IDS Long Island.
Well, before that, I was a board member as the treasurer.
Okay.
I think for about.
So that was
5
before my
years,
time. That's why I don't know that.
before
When
your time,
I joined, you were president,
Mm-hmm.
and I think when I filled out the initial email, I think you reached out to me, if I'm not mistaken, within a day or two at the beginning. So you were the president. Before that, you were the treasurer.
Vice president before president.
So treasurer, then vice president.
Mm-hmm.
Did you join originally just as a member?
I just joined as a member, yep. And
Okay.
I just realized that the more I put into it, the more I would get in return.
Okay.
And it's a very rewarding experience.
Cool. So you became the treasurer, which I think is now held by Marie, right?
Yes, Marie Byrne.
And you went on to vice president and then president, which is when you kind of I don't want to say recruited me because I joined, and then you messaged me and said come to the meetings or whatever the case was, and I started coming, and it's been a fantastic experience for me. And now I'm sort of involved, publicity chair, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that officially means, but I'll take it.
Yep. So on the extended board, we like to have extended board members to do things like the publicity chair, social media, head of the PIF committee, the Pay It Forward committee, all these different committees that are on the extended board. And then we hope we find people that become future leaders and become secretary, treasurer, president, vice president.
Uh-oh.
So
I see you looking at me like, and then how does it work? It's 2-year term, the presidency?
Each position is held for 2 years.
Okay, so then, and now Dean is the new president.
Dean is the current president.
Current president, and then you graduated. Is that a nice way to put it? Graduated to National IDS.
Well, National asked me to be part of the board, and the first time they asked me, we were actually very involved with so many things with Long Island that I respectfully denied it at the time. And then the following year, they asked me to become that they were still interested in having me as a national board member, and I became the board member at large, and now I'm the treasurer secretary for National.
Nice. So you have a say in everything that IDS does nationally.
It's a vote.
It's a vote. Well, I mean,
Yep.
It's a democracy like anything else. You have a say.
Exactly.
You can raise your hand and tell people what your opinion is.
Exactly.
Cool. So, I mean, just to take a step back to local IDS, here in Long Island, for people that aren't too familiar, what benefits for designers does IDS serve? Because I know for me personally, and I'm not a designer, I'm a photographer, and it's opened tons of doors as far as relationships. I mean, we're here now. I wouldn't have known you otherwise. Same thing with the other board members, but even designers. I speak to designers all the time. I've booked jobs and shoots with some of the members, and just to have that affiliation with the community for me has been great and beneficial. But as a designer itself, because I'm what's called an affiliate member, is that the official vendor member?
Yep.
What benefits do designers have to join an IDS, and what kind of things does IDS do throughout the month or even year to, because I know we have some really great great events that go on throughout the year to help designers.
So there are events that happen nationally as well as events that happen locally. Locally, as a IDS member, as a designer, number one, you're getting a lot of education, and we offer CEU courses, monthly meetings, monthly chapter meetings where you could meet and converse with other designers. The thing about IDS is we're a collaborative organization. We're not a competitive organization. So it's very important as designer members to realize that you're collaborating with other designers and vendor members like you and myself. So,
and I think that's a big fear that people have when joining these type of organizations, because I've heard it from other photographers. Well, I don't want to sit there and meet my competitors. Like, they're my competitors. Let them be my competitors. Let me be here, and let's just all run our businesses.
It's a matter of knowing how to talk to other people and figure out where does your relationship meet in the middle, where you could be collaborative and yet not give away your trade secrets. But if you have a really good audiovisual guy and you want to share it with one of the other designers, you could say, you have a really good photographer. Hey, I worked with Brian. He's a member of the board. Why don't you talk to Brian? So it's a way for designer members to be collaborative in that regard. There's also a tremendous amount of education, because what we try to do is at every chapter meeting, we try to incorporate some kind of educational component into the meeting.
Yeah, going back to the collaborative, I like to always say colleague over competition in a way. I'm friends with a lot of the other interior design and architectural photographers in the area, and it only benefits us for so many reasons. And for interior design, it's not any different, or for what you do, it's not any different, because meeting consistently and hanging out and talking to people, first off, it helps establish industry standards for rates, which I think is crucial, because so many people undercut each other and so many people overcharge. And for us to be able, I know I'm speaking just strictly as a photographer, but I'm assuming it's not any different for what you do or for an interior designer, just to be able to sort of establish some sort of standard. And obviously there are going to be ranges, because people are at different places in their career, people deal with different clientele, different types of works, but some sort of standard where you don't have people in similar communities just completely undercutting you to the point where you're losing work because this designer is 40-50% of my price and they're doing incredible work. So yeah, I like to always say colleague over competition, and just be friends.
And that's where a lot of the collaborative efforts come in when we do a pay it forward project or something, because we're now working together with other of our peers. Yeah. So whether you're working with someone in the same industry as you, or your designers working all together at once, it's all for a greater cause. It's for a charitable concept.
No, for sure. And like we were talking about earlier before we were recording, the John Thiessen Foundation is the perfect example. John is on with us this season, and 4 designers from IDS came together to collaborate on this project, and I went out and shoot it. So there are theoretically 5 IDS members involved in this project, and everyone just worked together. And I guess you can say out in the wild, they're competition, but everyone just came together and produced this incredible place for a charitable organization, and the space looks phenomenal. The kids are going to love it, so it's exciting.
Yeah, and it was actually more than 5. So
was it? You were involved, right?
We did the audio video. We set up the home theater for them. We did some other technology for them there.
I saw your sign on the plaque wall, but I didn't know how involved you were or not.
And then Bonnie and Cherie from Symmetry Closets, they donated some of their closets and shelving. Okay. So they were not just, sometimes you only see on the surface.
Yeah, well, I saw what I saw. Exactly. But no, it's good to know, because there are more. And, now there are 7 that I know of, and there probably are a few others, too, that I don't even know about.
And, John Thiessen, just because you brought it up, so John Thiessen, he's been in charity, I think, for over 30 years. He started as a kid himself, and it's a children's foundation, and we used to bring our kids every Christmas and donate to John's foundation. Oh, nice. So when we were looking for something to do within IDS as a charitable project, we always asked for suggestions at the meetings. So I brought it up to John Thiessen Children's Foundation, because they had just purchased this new center and it needed a complete renovation. So it was a great opportunity for us to all work together.
It really hit home also, personally.
Yeah, it sure did.
Cool. So let's go back. Hopefully people are sold on IDS. Let's go back to what you do. Ultimately, we were talking, you gave me the brief summary, but for designers that are looking to sort of go this route, because I guess it's a weird sort of integration when designers sit down and think about it, because when you think of an interior designer from the outskirt, your initial thought is typically, colors, textures, furniture, tile picks, but you don't really think about home automation or audio and video. But I think that plays a huge part of it, especially family rooms, living rooms, all that stuff. And now with smart everything, it's the whole house even.
It's certainly a big part, and interior designers have taken on so much of a bigger role in a lot of regards. A lot of the interior designers are complete project managers, especially if it's something from the design build phase right from the beginning. It's very important that they introduce the thought of the technology in the home, and that's really all we need. Is we need the thought to be put into the consumer's home, for the interior designer to make the connection for the introduction, for us to meet them. And then we don't need the interior designer to know all the different things about Wi-Fi 7 versus Wi-Fi 6. They don't need to know any of the technology terms. We just need them to make the introduction, and then that's where
and
we
sell
step
the
in.
importance of
technology.
if you're rebuilding or redesigning your house, why you should go that route. And speaking of that, is that today in 2024, is a smart home mandatory? Is it something that
I wouldn't call it mandatory, but what ends up happening in a lot of cases is when the project is done, then you have a lot of people saying, oh, I wish I would have. So sometimes we could retrofit things, but if we're brought in the beginning part of the project, it could make things a lot simpler, a lot nicer. For instance, we have something that we always refer to as wall clutter or wall acne. So when you have a bank of 5 light switches, a thermostat, a dehumidifier, 4 different things on the wall, where you could have had just one simple keypad. So you can't do that after the fact. That's something that has to be done from the beginning stages.
Yeah, I mean, although I guess home automation has been out for a while now. I don't know exactly, 10 years maybe, give or take.
Even longer.
Even longer.
It's changed and evolved.
I feel like it's kind of one of those things, almost like electric cars, if that makes sense, because it's been out long enough now that you can go that route, and you should go that route, but people are just still hesitant to do it, to bite the bullet and say, all right, I want my entire house smart. How can I go without having a switch that I can flick up? I have to talk to my house. So I think there's like some skepticism there where people are just afraid, sort of like I said, electric cars, where it's like, I know when my car lease was up 2 years ago, I should have gotten electric, but I didn't. And now I'm up again next year, and I said to my wife, should we do it? And the fact that we're still debating it tells me like, I'm afraid to make the plunge, but I know I need to because it's going that way anyway.
Well, I always say there's a need for technology on every project for an interior designer, because even if you're just designing a living room, at the end of that project, when they sit in this beautiful living room with new furniture, new carpets, new paint, and the client sits there and he sits on the couch and his Wi-Fi doesn't work, he's not going to be happy. Yeah. So you need to have technology. It's not just about the smart home. It's also about technology. Every home has technology at some point, at some level. Mm-hmm. So you have to think about that no matter what the project is.
So let me ask you, going back to the question or the topic we spoke about before, and getting the designer introducing the idea, just so designers have sort of an idea of where you fall into place in their process. At what point does the designer introduce the idea or introduce you to the client when they're doing a project? At what point should that be a topic for designers? So, and this is for the designers out there that are like, all right, I think my client would benefit from a smart home, but I just don't know at what point do I bring this up at my sales call? Do I bring this up once they commit to the project? Do they bring this up once we started building? I mean, obviously, ideally, your best time to go in is when the sheetrock is not up, I would imagine. But what point in the project do designers, should they start introducing this concept to their clients?
I think it should be introduced at the very beginning. You're going to have an electrician on the job. You're going to have a plumber on the job. You're going to have heating and air conditioning on the job. You're going to need technology in your home. So it's an added value from the designer to say, hey, we have a technology specialist on our team. So this way that technology specialist could be introduced, and let me introduce you to him right in the beginning, because a lot of the things that we're going to design may revolve around what the technology specialist wants to include based on your needs and wants.
Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, because I'm a novice to this, the electrician is not the same person that does your smart home.
It shouldn't be. There are a lot of very qualified electricians out there that know what they know, and there may be some electricians out there that know more about smart homes than I do, but more than likely not. The same way I wouldn't try to wire a house for electric or try to do the plumbing in a home, we are a separate trade.
So I wanted to continue the way we were, but a different thought just entered my mind. So I'm just going to skip around a little bit because I'm actually curious to this myself. You've been in the business. You said you bought this building 20 years ago. I'm assuming you've been in the business longer than that, obviously. What was the progression like for you? Because 25 years ago, I mean, we still had the big tube TVs, and we had this big CRT monitors, and I'm looking around, there's flat screens everywhere here. What was the progression for you as somebody who started off in audio? And I mean, well, both for you and for the industry as a whole to get where we are now, and then on that, maybe to where we're going.
So I started out in high school. I was doing car audio, security systems in vehicles. So that was my original passion. And
I mean, when I was in high school, the big thing was to go get your stock stereo pulled out and pull one of these Pioneer systems in. Yep. I remember it was important to make sure you got the face plate that pulled off so you can throw it in your bag and no one can take your radio.
Exactly. Or even bigger, you had the entire Benzie box where the entire radio slid out of
I think dashboard. I started driving when that was on its way out. It was like the end of that. But
I always tell people I've been in the business so long that I used to install cell phones in cars before we all had them in our pockets. I
remember that in the late 80s.
Yeah.
I remember my mother's a single mother, and I remember she was taking a trip once to Canada. It must have been late 80s, early 90s. And it was me and my siblings, there's three of us in the car with just her. So she had to go get a cell phone installed because she said, I can't be driving by myself with three kids up to Canada and not have any way to contact people. So we had this big phone with a wire down into the console with a big antenna in the back.
Yep. So that's really where I started. I then got interested on the commercial side. We used to do sports bars, restaurants, nightclubs with the old big 10-foot satellite dishes that used to go on the roof so you could get all the different games, sporting events.
And you're doing audio and video at that point.
And we were doing audio as well for incorporated with that. It was a fun trade, but it was different. It was difficult. It was people always changing owners, and they never have any money left at the end to pay you.
Hospitality is a weird industry.
So
I do a lot of work for hospitality.
It was very different. And I remember working at a guy's bar one time, and he said, listen, I really want to put some speakers outside my house. And I went to his house, and I put the speakers outside, and then I said, we could do this, and we could put speakers in your living room. And that was kind of like where I found my passion to work in homes. And then it wasn't just homes, but it was then more high-end homes, because the more higher-end homes did more speakers and more TVs throughout the house and satellite dishes when they first came out. So when we started doing all of that, having Wi-Fi or networks wasn't even a thing yet. So another way to attribute how the industry evolved. So we weren't even doing networks. It wasn't even a thing in a home at the time. And the same way the car phone evolved to the modern day cell phone, the same thing happened with networks. There was no such thing as networks when I started in homes, and now it's the essential part of every job we do. It all starts with the network because everything is connected to the network.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting because I compare what you do to what I do. And obviously the technology changed and the techniques changed because, film to digital, etc. But at the end of the day, the service that I'm providing is still capturing or documenting the space. But because you're in a technology-based business, the services you offer went from 2 services to 3 services to 4 services, and it all works together.
And beyond. And now we're looking at AI and how AI is going to have a part in this, because artificial intelligence is here, and it's the way we're controlling, it has to do with the way we're controlling homes. So eventually you might have homes thinking for you. Like you enter a room, a motion sensor could turn on the lights for you. But with AI, the motion sensor could turn on the light for you, and then it could say, well, he always watches TV and he likes to watch this channel, and it could happen automatically.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought of that concept. I mean, I do a lot of AI, especially now with photography. A lot of AI is integrated into Photoshop and the way we manipulate images. So, for instance, if I'm taking a shot and someone wants that car removed, it's a lot easier to do it now than it was 5 years ago. But I never really sat down and thought about it from a home automation standpoint, because the way AI work, like there's so many things evolving that you never even thought of, and we're probably going to bore some people now, but I guess we're going to geek out for a minute. But like I'm doing a shoot next week on Tuesday for this club. It's a wellness center in Manhattan, and their whole concept is using AI. You wear an Apple Watch when you join, you wear an Oura Ring, which monitors your sleep, and every day when you go in there, based on how much sleep you had, how your heart rate's going, all that, they tell you what to do. It's a gym, there's a IV therapy, there's hyperbaric chambers, all this stuff in the wellness center, acupuncture, and the AI algorithm is basically coming up with what you need to do based on what your body's feeling and doing that day. And it's mind-blowing.
It's pretty incredible. It's here and it's going to stay here. So it's a matter of how we embrace it, even in the design community. So the design community uses AI for 3D renderings, for, a lot of clients want to see, clients a lot of times have trouble envisioning what the designer is trying to tell them the room is going to look like. So with the help of AI, you're able to actually create the room before the room is built.
Yeah. And look, you know what? Digital renders have been around for 15, 20 years, but it's so much easier now. I think designers can probably do it on their own without having to outsource, although that's a whole conversation for another day if they should spend their time, if they're spending their time wisely bothering with renders or just, hire somebody else to do it. But yeah, no, it's phenomenal. And that whole concept of, like you said, every day at 9 o'clock you sit down and you put on Netflix. At 8:55 your TV pops on and Netflix is on. That's incredible.
It's the tip of the iceberg, and technology never rests. It's always something new, and I always like to tell people I learn something new every day, because technology is always changing. And if I just stayed with what I knew, I'd still be trying to put car phones in people's cars, and I wouldn't be in business anymore.
No, for sure. And I feel like maybe because I've only been alive that long to experience it, but I feel like the last 30, 40 years have been the quickest technological advances compared to previous years. Although people probably 150 years ago said the same thing.
Right.
But from where we were when I was a kid, playing, 4-bit PlayStation, not even PlayStation, Atari games. Atari games to, my kids playing video games on my phone and everything else, just computers. I remember dialing up as a high school student, dialing up with my 14.4 modem,
right?
So the whole concept, and then yelling at your mother when she picked up the phone and logged you off. So, yeah, just the way technology advances so quickly, it's just...
And we thought that was great at the time. We didn't know how great it was going to be.
Phenomenal. I can go in a chat room on AOL and chat with my friends after school. It was, but now look how easy it is.
Right.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit, and spring is here, although this might release in a few weeks in the summertime, but we're in outdoor weather. So let's talk about what you're seeing, because we're going to have Eric from Coastal on, and he's going to talk about outdoor kitchens and stuff like that on one of the episodes. Hopefully that's the plan. What kind of technology are we starting to see, or have we seen over the last 5-10 years, and where is that going with outdoor living? Because I shoot houses now, I full living room, speaker, theater setups outdoors even now.
It's pretty crazy. Years ago, it was put a pair of speakers outside, and that was it.
Hidden in a rock.
Yeah. And now outdoor living has become a whole nother category, a whole nother technology. And think about people like Eric designing full kitchens outside. So outdoor living has become a huge category for us. Even now we do motorized window treatments. Now we're even bringing motorized shades to the outside. So people want screened in rooms. outside TVs, entertainment outside is a very big thing. So especially during COVID times, everybody was staying home. Nobody was going on vacation. So having a backyard that was your little oasis was actually a big benefit to have in your home.
Yeah, what I'm seeing a lot of lately in the houses that I'm shooting are these outdoor indoor spaces where it's like it's built into the house with one wall that opens up and it becomes like an outdoor space, but you're still inside, you're still covered. But yeah, like you said, theaters. I mean, what else are people doing out there? Do you have any of the work you do have integration with like a kitchen and grills and stuff like that? Or
so not so much kitchen and grills yet, anyway.
Yeah.
But the lighting is a big factor.
Because on home automation, sorry for interrupting, like I can't see a situation where you can be in the house and you can hit 3 buttons on your phone and your grill pops on and starts warming up. So when you get out there, it's ready to go.
I'm sure it's coming.
So there you go.
For us, again, like we said before, how everything starts with the network, we have to make sure we have Wi-Fi coverage outside. You know, a lot of these houses that we work on have these tremendous backyards that you can't just put one repeater. A repeater is not going to work anyway. You have to have dedicated access points where you're going to get full Wi-Fi coverage in the backyard. From there, you could be all the way across the backyard. You could control the lights. You could control the heat in the pool. You could control anything that's part of your house system. You'll be able to control it from your phone.
And is Wi-Fi reliable enough nowadays for that to be your only source? Because I remember, 10, 15 years ago, they said always hardwire because you never know with Wi-Fi. And for instance, my office is I have a detached garage in my house, and we converted it to my office. And when we were running electric back there, I had them run Wi-Fi, Cat 5 cables, just so I have, or Cat 6, whatever it was up to at the time. From my router in the basement of my house with the electric, we ran, because I said, even though I get the Wi-Fi, I'd rather just be hardwired. I'm in the office all day. And that was maybe my skepticism of Wi-Fi being reliable enough, because 10, 15 years ago it wasn't. I mean, is that not a thing anymore?
So not to geek out too much here, but even hardwire is always better.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, hardwire is always going to be better than Wi-Fi. But when you're sitting in your garage, you still want to be able to go on your phone and be on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have the hardwire out in your garage, you could then plug Wi-Fi access.
Oh, I do have that. Yeah, so I do have Wi-Fi into that.
So you're having Wi-Fi. You're not relying on your connection all the way back to the router in the house. You'll still be able to be on your Wi-Fi while in your garage, your office.
Makes sense. So back to outdoor living. When designers are designing outdoor spaces, what kind of things is it important for them to look for or try to sell their clients on? If they're doing outdoor kitchens, outdoor spaces, what kind of technology are you seeing? Because I'm assuming everything that you do is not applicable to the outdoors, but there also might be things that you do for the outdoors that are not applicable to interiors. So what kind of things should designers be looking for as far as outdoor kitchen, outdoor spaces?
So we don't want the designer to go down a road that they may not be too familiar with. So you just want to introduce entertainment and technology. And once that topic comes up, usually the homeowner is going to say, oh yes, I got to have a TV here, and I got to have my music, and I want to be able to control my pool from my phone. Those are all the things that usually the homeowner is going to say is a requirement once you introduce the whole fact of technology and entertainment in the backyard.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm just picturing, and I guess it happens now, but like as you drive up to a house, all your driveway lights go on, and I guess that's stuff that's possible now with motion and all that stuff. But I don't know, you really got my wheels turning with the AI, and I'm like, that's.
Well, for outdoors, what we like to do is we like to set up things that happen with the sun. So when the sun goes down, the lights come on at 11:30 at night or whatever predetermined time we choose. We usually like to dim the outside lights so your house doesn't stick out so far from outer space. And when the sun comes up in the morning, there's no reason for any of the lights to be on outside. They all turn off automatically.
Correct.
So we do things with astronomical time clocks.
Interiors also. It's funny. That's a funny debate that us photographers have, and I'll geek out for a minute with photography, because as photographers, we always say, do you shoot with the client's house lights on or off? And, you understand lighting, so you understand what kind of impossible situation that is. That could be from a photography standpoint, because every light has a different color temperature, and when you start mixing outdoor with tungsten and this and that, it just becomes a disaster. But when I work with a designer and they're like, well, I put this beautiful chandelier in, I have to have the lights on, the first thing I always say to them is, but during the day when your clients are home, are the lights ever on? And the answer is always no. We're outside, we're inside right now, it's beautifully lit, and we have no lights on. So I always say, well, I'm glad you want to show off your fixture, but you'll still see the fixture with the lights off, and you don't need glaring highlights popping out of this light, because it's not natural. Nobody ever goes into their house, unless it's a gloomy day. No one ever goes into their house in the middle of the day when the sun is blaring in and turns their lights on.
So that brings up another category, actually, of circadian lighting.
Okay.
Circadian lighting is based on the sun outside. So imagine walking into a room and pressing the button to turn on the lights in the room. Now, when it's at night, you'd want to press that one button and all the lights come on. Mm-hmm. But if you did do it on a dark, gloomy day, you'd press that button and the lights would only come on to the proper color temperature to match what's outside.
Yeah.
So now you're inside, you won't be blaring your lights. For instance, now we do things when people go into a bathroom in the middle of the night and they press the button to turn the lights on. You don't want the lights going full bright, so they only come up 10% and very dimly and very slowly, so this way your eyes aren't blinded at night. In the middle of the day when you turn on the lights in the bathroom, you want all the lights to come on.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Interesting. So we're gonna start to close it out. Just to kind of finish it off, we spoke about AI a little bit, and that intrigues me, so maybe we can geek out to that over a beer one day. But what other things are you starting to see, or where do you see things going besides for AI down the line in the next couple of years?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I had a crystal ball, I'd be a very wealthy man. So we just see technology, everybody has a cell phone. So everything is going to be based off of the cell phone. We go to the trade shows and we look for latest trends and new trends and things that are developing. And right now, AI is the biggest thing. So it's just a question of how AI is going to integrate into our world, where it'll think for you almost. One of the companies that we deal with that does voice recognition, Josh AI is the name of the company, and they actually did an April Fool's joke where they were going to actually have neuro control. So you could think it and your lights will turn on. Obviously, it was just an April Fool's joke, but who knows? A lot of things that we didn't think were going to happen years ago, we're doing today. Watch the Jetsons. Watch an old episode of the Jetsons. No. They're FaceTiming. They're working from home. They're doing things that we never thought would be possible, and here we are.
Yeah. Cool. So let's wrap it up. Two things. Number one, I want to just close it out and tell people how to get in touch with you. But back to IDS, I just want to, since you're on the board of National, we have the big conference coming up the end of September. So I want to highly suggest or recommend people to attend that. That's in the end of September in Santa Fe, right? You want to talk for a minute about that?
Yeah, September 30th through the October 2nd. And it's going to be fantastic. Santa Fe is an amazing place to visit. It's a little different for us this year. We're actually doing it a Monday through Wednesday, which is very different for us. But Santa Fe is a very busy place with a lot of tourists. There is a balloon festival the following weekend. There's a big chili festival the weekend before. So if you're going to plan your travel, you could really plan your travel ahead of time and take advantage of some of the things that Santa Fe has to offer.
And what kind of things, if someone has never attended one of these conferences, what kind of things should people expect? Obviously, you have your awards gala, which is Designer of the Year. But what else do you have going on? Presentations and different types of stuff like that?
A lot of presentations, a lot of education, and a tremendous amount of networking. For those that are on IDS boards throughout the country in different chapters, we have a leadership meeting at the very beginning of the conference where everybody compares notes and helps each other to develop other chapters. And then we have the educational component where we have different seminars and this year we're going to have I'm also the head of the conference committee. So it's just another one of the other things that I do. And we're going to have a lot of interaction a lot of interactive sessions. So this way people don't just feel like they're sitting in a classroom. We want it to be interactive and we want it to be two-way.
Okay, cool. And then going back to you, if people or designers or listeners or anyone who comes across this wants to get in touch with you and find out a little bit about what you do, I mentioned hometheater.biz, but what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So we're on social media. You could find us on Instagram and Facebook as well as Sights and Sounds, and that's Sights with a hyphen, the letter N dash sounds. But we're very easy to find. Hometheater.biz is our website.
We'll post the link to your website anyway in the show notes. If people, I don't know if people are listening to this through like Apple Podcasts or on our website directly, but there'll be a link in the show notes to all your stuff anyway.
Excellent.
So they can reach out to you.
Reach out to us any way you find best for you. We have texting service, we have email, we have all different type of ways to get in touch with us.
And I don't want to put this on you, but if someone has a question about IDS, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. I'm always here. I'm always willing to listen, and I have a lot of information about IDS. I'd love to help.
All right, cool. So, Joe, thank you for coming on. I'm not sure exactly what episode this will release as far as the order, but I know everyone at IDS loves you, so thank you for the work you do locally and nationally, and it's always good to hang out and chat.
Appreciate it.
And let's go have a beer and talk about AI.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.